Okay, so before we start talking more in depth about photosynthesis, just one more point about light. And again, just remember this little concept that light is either absorbed or reflected or transmitted, but we're just gonna keep it to reflected. Okay, absorbed. If it's something that's absorbed, you won't see it. If it's something that is being reflected, then you get to see it. Okay, that's what you see. So if you're wearing if you're using a blue balloon, for example, okay, I'm gonna draw you here a blue balloon just because I am that creative. Uh, Something like this. Okay, it's a blue balloon. Okay, absorbs all of the wavelengths except blue. So blue is being reflected. Okay, that's what you see. And the other wavelengths are being absorbed, right? What happens in with black? Black, that means that all light is being absorbed, and yellow light and white light, all of them are being all wavelengths are being reflected. Okay. All right. So photosynthesis. Let's talk about photosynthesis now. A little more in depth. This is going to be like a brief summary of photosynthesis, and then we're going to go into the little details. So photosynthesis is the kind of the reverse of cellular respiration. Okay, photosynthesis is the reverse of cellular respiration. As you know, cellular respiration consists of different steps like glycolysis, then the citric acid cycle, then the electron transport chain, right? And there's something in the middle. Okay, when we make acetyl CoA, right? Well, what happens in photosynthesis is kind of reverse. Okay, we're gonna see this the electron transport chain. We are gonna see it in photosynthesis, but it's gonna happen first, right? And then we're gonna see another cycle that's gonna build up organic molecules, like for example glucose from carbon dioxide, and then we're gonna be assembling these into organic molecules into sugars. Okay, so we're putting a lot of carbon dioxide, making them into sugars, into organic molecules. So it's almost like the reverse of cellular respiration. And this is kind of the summary of photosynthesis. So, like I said before, photosynthesis is going to be kind of split into two stages. Okay, the first stage is going to be the light dependent reactions. Why do we call them the light dependent reactions? Because it requires sunlight, it requires light for this to happen. What's going to happen with this light is going to be captured by the chloroplasts. Okay, water, I told you water is going to play a very important role. Water is going to donate electrons. That's what water does. Okay, how does it happen? Water is going to split, okay, giving up electrons, giving up protons, and making one of the products, oxygen. Oxygen is going to be a byproduct. It's going to be a product of this, oxygen. Okay, so again, water is very important because it's going to be the molecule that donates electrons, and you'll see that everything is based on electrons pretty much, and hydrogens, and whatever is left, the oxygens will come together and make oxygen, the oxygen molecule that you actually breathe. The electron transport chain is going to be used, it's still part of the light dependent reactions. So the electron transport chain is going to be used to make ATP, to build the sugars. And again, don't overthink it, ladies and gents. You already know this. We talked about the electron transport chain in cell respiration. What does it do? It produces ATP. Same thing here in photosynthesis. Electron transport chain is going to produce ATP. Energy, right? It's going to produce some kind of energy. Energy for what? In this case, to build sugars. And the electrons, okay, which are important, where do they come from? They come from the water, okay? These electrons are going to get energized. We're going to be energizing electrons, and we'll be using something called an electron carrier called NADP. Okay, we're going to be creating something called NADPH, which is going to be it's going to have a very similar function as NAD, NADH in cell respiration. What is NADPH going to do? It's going to carry electrons. It's going to carry electrons. NADPH is an electron carrier, and it's going to carry these electrons to our next cycle, the Calvin cycle. Okay, the Calvin cycle. That's the light-dependent reactions. That happens first. Then we have the light-independent reactions. Why are they called the light-independent reactions? Because they don't really require light. But this is tricky because it is dependent on the products from the light reactions. Okay, so even though these light independent reactions don't require the light per se, they do indirectly, because without light we cannot make the products that go into the light independent reactions. Okay, so for example, ATP, that we said ATP is producing the light dependent reactions. Well, we need it in the light independent reactions. NADPH created in the light dependent reactions are also needed in these light independent reactions. Okay, so the products of the light dependent reactions are going to be used in the light independent reactions. There's another way for light independent reactions called the Calvin cycle. I honestly like to call them the light independent or light dependent, because it tells you about the light, right? It tells you more than just Calvin cycle. Calvin cycle tells you nothing really, just tells you who came up with this or who discovered this process. All right, but that's not very important. The important thing is, you know, where light comes, the importance of light. Now, what happens in the light independent reactions, besides using the products of the light dependent reactions, is in the light independent reactions we'll be leaking carbons from carbon dioxide to make sugars, to make glucose, among other sugars and other molecules as well. Okay, so here I have a little note. We're going to be fixing carbon dioxide into a sugar using the electrons from NADPH and energy from ATP. This is how we make the sugar. Okay, fixing, we'll talk about this in a little bit. Fixation, carbon fixation, is when carbon dioxide, which is inorganic, is added or it becomes part of an organic molecule. Okay, and the electrons are going to be part of this glucose molecule, this organic molecule, and ATP is going to be used to make this whole process run. Okay, now look at me at my picture over here. My picture over here gives you a very nice brief summary of everything, right? What is it telling us? Okay, let's talk about the light reactions, the light dependent reactions. What is it telling us? What do we need? We need light. What else do we need? We need water. Okay, now these are the reactants. Remember, what do we need for reactants for photosynthesis? We need light. Here it is. We need water. Here it is. And carbon dioxide. But carbon dioxide is the cool thing. Carbon dioxide doesn't come in right now. We'll use carbon dioxide in the light independent reactions or the Calvin cycle. Okay, so in the light dependent reactions, we need light, we need water. Water is going to donate the electrons. Going to be, I'm going to put here, so it sticks. Okay, it's going to be the electron donor. Okay, going to be the electron donor. This is going to happen in the thylakoids. These green things here happen in the thylakoids. Okay, here's where we have the, we're gonna find the pigments here. Okay, and what is gonna come out of the light dependent reactions? One of our products, right? I'm gonna put here, actually, let me put this R for reactant, and P for product. Okay, oxygen. Oxygen comes out as a product. Okay, and it comes out from the light reactions. Great. What is another product of our light dependent reactions? Well, we make ATP, right? ATP is another product, but this is a product of the light dependent reactions. Another one is going to be NADPH, which is going to be carry electrons. Okay, energized electrons. NADPH and ATP is going to enter the Calvin cycle, or the light-independent reactions. Now, what happens in the light-dependent, independent reactions? What happens in the Calvin cycle? What do we need? We need our other product, right? Sorry, another reactant, carbon dioxide. We're going to need 6 molecules of this, okay, in order to be able to make, and this is kind of the last part of it. What do we make? What is it made in the Calvin cycle? Ta-da! Sugar, glucose, okay, an organic molecule. So we get some inorganic carbon and we make organic molecule called carbon. Okay, so far so good, and that's it. So again, this is going to give you pretty much the whole picture of photosynthesis. Okay, one more time with my little arrow. What goes in? There's two types of reactions. Okay, in photosynthesis, the light-dependent and the light-independent reactions. In the light-dependent reactions, we need the light, which is going to be captured by the pigments in the thylakoids. We need water, which is going to be our electron donor. Okay, and we produce oxygen. So far, so good. What else happens in the light-dependent reactions? We produce ATP and we produce NADPH. NADPH is going to be the electrons, energized electrons used to make the sugar. And ATP is the energy that also goes into the Calvin cycle, light-independent reactions, to make glucose, pretty much. But something else has to come into the Calvin cycle, and that is going to be our last reactant, which is carbon dioxide. We're going to be taking 6 carbon dioxides, okay, use these electrons, use this ATP to make glucose. And that is photosynthesis in a nutshell.